Welcome everyone to another exploration of Pallas Athena in her Scorpio cycle. So if you've been following along with us, you'll know that the Scorpio cycle started in May of this year when she reached opposition to the sun. And just to go back a little bit and kind of catch us up to where we are right now, uh, Pallas Athena went into Scorpio on November 19th of 2023. And then was in Scorpio until February 6th, and that's when it went into Sagittarius. It went into Sagittarius until, well, actually, I guess it turned retrograde on uh, turned retrograde on May 16th. No, it turned retrograde on March 29th, but it came back into Scorpio on May 16th and making an opposition to the sun, and that started the new cycle. So there's phases to the Pallas, any cycle, any of the cycles of the asteroids or the planets, there's different phases, and they all go through their retrograde phase, that before they go retrograde, while they're retrograde, after they go retrograde, they make the opposition. If they're, except for Venus and Mercury, they all make an opposition to the sun. So that's where we start the cycle. And the sign that the planet or asteroid is in at the time of opposition lets us know what is the archetypal energy in the collective psyche of our planet at that time. And so because Pallas Athena was opposite the sun in Scorpio, it's the Scorpio, we could say meta goddess or meta expression of Pallas Athena that is with us until there's another opposition to the sun, and that'll be in August of 2025. So we're in the Scorpio cycle. However, uh, and currently, as we're doing this recording, Pallas Athena is still in Scorpio until September 8th, and then she'll move back into Sagittarius again. So she's been in Scorpio for quite a long time, and that isn't usually the case. It's maybe a month, maybe a little more than a month that she's in a sign, depending on where she is in her retrograde cycle. So she will go through all the different signs till she gets to Aquarius, and then that'll be the next cycle that is happening. But the overarching energy of Pallas Athena is Scorpio from now until August of next year. Pretty exciting. And just so you can understand why we're focusing on the Scorpio piece, even though Pallas Athena will move into Sagittarius, we'll still have the Scorpio theme playing out as she moves through the different signs. Okay, so the other thing is that if we think about the Scorpio archetypal energy, this is the dark goddess. This is all of the goddesses of death and rebirth. And something that Meredith was sharing with me is Demetra George's book on the dark moon. Do you have that to show?
Yeah, the mysteries of the dark moon.
Mysteries of the Dark Moon, yeah. And that, so there's different cycles. So we have a dark moon every month, but we can have also an epoch of time that is a darker time. And that reminds me of the yugas, because I do have my transcendental meditation background, and we talked about the yugas, and we're in Kali Yuga, the dark goddess energy. It's about death and rebirth and the dying to whatever has been so something new can come forth. And in that process, there's a lot of chaos that happens. And so we're in that, but depends on how you look at it. So if we think of Pallas Athena being in Scorpio now, it feels like the dark goddess is rising. She's coming into her own. She is starting to really be open to a new story. Whatever the story has been, we're creating a new story. And in the story of Pallas Athena, she was fighting against certain things. And now we want to imagine that she's standing for the things that are lighting us up, that are exciting us, that are bringing joy and bringing a sense of deeper connection to ourselves and to each other. And it feels like that's happening more and more. That's it definitely feels like it's happening. But it's also, as Meredith, as you were saying so beautifully, it's moving past victimhood and really getting past this way of like, oh, look at all the terrible things that have happened to me. And yes, we've all had terrible things happen to us, and yes, it's all been traumatic and challenging. But how do we take and transform that? How do we transmute that? How do we create the alchemy that allows us to then be empowered by these experiences so that we are in a different place with who we are and how we're showing up? And so how are we rewriting the story, essentially, our own personal stories, so that we become empowered by the things that have tried to destroy us and didn't. Or maybe they did, but then we somehow rose back up out of that. And so that's the opportunity that we have with this cycle of Pallas Athena right now. Now, just quickly in the yugas, I was reading, it was just recently that it was Rudolf Steiner was really into the yugas. And one of the things he determined was that in 1899, Kali Yuga ended. Now, I've also seen other researchers say it's 2025 when Kali Yuga ends. And, so some say it's already ended, some say it's going to end next year. We don't know, but here we have Pallas Athena and Scorpio. And so it is that dark goddess, and it's that energy that says something big is changing and shifting in our reality. And that's what's most important. There's also those who have said that the yugas take 300 years to make a transition. So even if Rudolf Steiner was correct, or that other people are correct, it's like it doesn't really matter, because there's a 300-year transition period that's very chaotic. So we're in it. It feels like we're in that time of chaos. And the Greeks did say, out of chaos comes the world. So a new world is being birthed right now, and that's the opportunity that we have, and it's a super exciting time to be here because we are a part of that. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Meredith.
That was so good, Kaylin. So I think that, we talked about an hour on all of this. And one of the things we talked about is to consider, with these changes, these cycles, to consider the possibility that the disappearance of the goddess was not solely due to a conscious intent of a dominant culture, but that conscious intent for destruction, although it played out that way, certainly, but it was more a factor of a natural cycle. So to consider that, and Demetra George uses the cycles of the moon to frame these bigger cycles. So just to consider that the cycle of waxing and waning phases, and all the phases of the moon, are that we are in, as Kaylin was saying, the dark phase, but we are moving out. We're in this in-between kind of bardo place where we're not in the dark, but we are, but we're not in the light, but we are. And the light would be the waxing phase. So we're moving towards the fullness. And that is a 300-year period of change and shift. So, so if we could claim the nature of Athena, that can be and release that story from victimhood, and just create a new story around what is Athena, who is she, who is this archetype, and how is this archetype unfolding for us now? So when we do that, then we no longer need the armoring. The armoring can be useful, but it's not there as a protection against something. It's a moving forward kind of an armoring. It's that warrioress energy. So the new mythology could be about protecting the Athena archetype, protecting the cyclical nature, standing for life, and affirming and moving that forward. And the Athena woman has an intellectual framework as she moves as a warrior or in the world. Um, and that framework can be without the victimhood, without the weight. I think of the victimhood and the dominant culture and all of that. Yes, true, but it's a weight of history. It's a weight of a time that we're moving out of, and when that is lifted, then there's a buoyancy that Athena, that archetype can have, a joy, a buoyancy, a positivity, and a power. And then the full power of that archetype comes from just the wholeness of herself, and um, she can then uh, move into the city state and create communities, or look at the way our collective uh, consciousness is moving and shift that, and even creating new systems for the city state. Um,
I
and
just
so that freed
really,
from that negativity, then she's free to use all of her power and begin to move forward into the future. And at this point, she would be visioning, using her power of visioning and having that in front of her and moving forward into the new. What were you gonna say?
in the Scorpio cycle, the other piece that's really important is grieving, feeling, going into the deep feelings, grieving, and allowing ourselves to whatever needs to die, let it die, whatever, and then grieve it. And you know, whether we liked it or not, whether we thought it was good or not, or however we felt about it, but allowing ourselves to feel those feelings, because then we are free to move into the new energy without the old, as you were saying, without that old dark heaviness. So choosing to feel what we feel is part of what Pallas Athena in Scorpio cycle is really about for us. And we have another year. Here we are. And next year at this time, we'll be moving into a new Pallas Athena cycle in Aquarius. So it'll definitely be about the time to be more visioning. But right now, we really need to be feeling what we're feeling. And if we're angry, we're hurt, we're upset, maybe we're joyous. We get to feel it all. So that's the opportunity I feel this cycle is bringing us.
Yeah, that's the Scorpio journey. So when you look at your birth chart uh, and you find out where Scorpio is in your chart, then that's where Athena and Scorpio is assisting you in that process that Kaylin was just talking about. And of course, if there are planets there in that Scorpio house, nodes or anything that are like that, then it's going to be even more important. And the focus will be on those planets as far as the regeneration, the feeling the feels, the really honestly clearing. And so that, and that's the work. And it's so great that we've got all this time to do it. It means that we can really go deep. So if you have a Scorpio ascendant, or Scorpio is on your first house, then by transit, Athena is transiting over that house in Scorpio, and the places where you're asked to go deep, or the places where you're asked to regenerate or transform, are areas having to do with your sense of self, or how the world sees you, how you see yourself. If you have Scorpio in your second house, then Athena in Scorpio transiting over that house, she's helping you take a look at what's important to you, what gives you pleasure, what do you value, what are the things that you find sustaining in the material world, what supports you or not. You know, you might find that you don't have that support, that you're not sustaining, that you're not caring for that part of yourself. And that might be your Athena transiting in Scorpio in the second house journey, to take a look at that and shift that. If you have Scorpio in your third house, if Athena then is transiting in Scorpio over that house, then those are issues she's asking you to transform, look at, change, heal, face, release, things having to do with how you communicate. How are you communicating with the world? How are you communicating to yourself? How are you taking who you know yourself to be and the things that give you value and sustain you, and then moving out into the world and communicating that with others? In the fourth house, it would be your foundations. If Athena was, if Scorpio was in your fourth house, the foundations of family, DNA, the attitudes that home that you were given, and taking a look at those. What's working? What needs to shift? What needs to change? Or what do you need to keep and grow? In the fifth house, it would be creativity, children of the body or mind, um, the way you move, take who you know yourself to be, what your values are, how you want to communicate that, what nurtures and sustains you, and begin to create something from that place. So if Athena is transiting over that fifth house, then you'll be experiencing an opportunity to transform, regenerate, go deep, heal, take a look at whatever blocks that might be to your creativity, or go deeper into it, uh, in a way that maybe you never have thought to do before. In your sixth house, that would be your house of Athena transiting. If Scorpio is on your sixth house, then that would be, how are you moving? Are you taking all of this self, these values, your ability to speak to others, your foundational self, your creativity, and how is that going to express with your work and also your health? In the seventh house, if Athena is in your seventh house, then that would be a focus. Athena and Scorpio transiting over that house would be giving you an opportunity to take a look at your relationships, partnerships of all kinds, business, marriage, friends, wherever you have to work together with another. What is working there? What is worth keeping? What is worth uh, regenerating, taking a look at, shifting, changing, transforming? And if Athena is transiting, if your eighth house is a Scorpio house, then that is the house, that is Scorpio's house. So Athena there is, the eighth house would be um, inheritance traditionally, but on a deeper sense, it's Scorpio's house. And so Athena transiting over, if you have an eighth house Scorpio, would be inviting you to go even deeper, deeper into the underworld realms, deeper into the realms that maybe you don't want to look at, you are difficult to look at, that you haven't understood, but they are kind of running the show because they are part of your unconscious. And so taking a look at that, really going deep there. And in the ninth house, it would be your higher, the ways that you want to. Here you are in the world. You've looked at your relationships in the seventh house. You've looked at your regenerative, the parts of you that need to regenerate, the unconscious drivers. And in the eighth house, you're now looking at, okay, higher. How can I take all of this and how can I move this into a higher understanding, a higher is kind of, that's a value system. So I don't want to say higher, it'd be more like a bigger view, maybe an objective view, a world view. How can you take all that and see the bigger picture? And in the 10th house, if Athena is transiting over your 10th house, then that would be, the 10th house would be the area of you in the world. So here you are, you've done all this work, and now here you are in the world, your career. How does the world see you? How do you see yourself in the world? And so Athena and Scorpio transiting that house, there'd be areas where you'd be looking at what's working for you, what isn't working for you, how can you express all that you have and all that you have to give to the world, um, in a way that is yours, unique to you, and of benefit to others. In the 11th house, Athena in Scorpio transiting over that house. If your 11th house is a Scorpio house, then that's all the areas have to do with community, friends, networking. And so, for example, in that house, if you're a person who's been recalcitrant to be part of a community, but there's part of you that wants to be part of a community, then Athena and Scorpio transiting that house would help you get to the essence or the bottom, so to speak, of those drivers, and heal and transform whatever it is that's standing in your way of working with others and networking and being in community. In the 12th house, if you have Scorpio in the 12th house, Athena transiting over that house would be giving you an opportunity to regenerate, to look at all that's come before, to go even deeper into your purpose, the purpose that your soul serves, and maybe into the more mystical realms of what your life purpose is.
Love it. That's so good. And just something too, if you're tuning into this and is to take these words and then to tune in and see how they align for you, and how can you take what you know about these energies and apply it to you, and perhaps through meditating, journaling, ceremony, whatever works for you, because this is our opportunity. Things are rapidly changing in the world, and I think we do have this dark goddess energy. uh, Pallas Athena in and of herself is more mental in how she approaches things, but now she's being required to go more deeply into the feeling realm. And she might feel a little resistance around that. Might not be something she really wants to do. So this is the opportunity that we have to work with these mysteries. And I always like to say, this is one of my favorite sayings, is we inform the mysteries as much as they inform us. And part of that is remembering that's because we are the mysteries. These archetypes have life through us. If we become the embodied expression of what's possible. And so when we're working with that and we're aligning with what's possible, then high magic can happen. And I don't mean high in the sense of hierarchy, but I mean high in the sense of high vibration. High vibrational magic, really amazing, can happen at this time. So how do you want to wrap this up, Meredith?
Yeah, I wanted to end by saying that our task really is to reorganize a new face, almost, um, of the goddess. But actually it's a face, um, it's an old one, you know. It's a one before the dark phase. Yeah. So we're and remember, before she went into the dark phase. So with regards to Athena, that would be, I'm going to quote you, Kaylin, that would be not moving out of fighting, we're moving out of fighting against and moving into standing for. So
Yes.
that's the old face that we're reorganizing again.
And I just remembered something I forgot to say, and that is on August 24, and we're recording this, what, August 7th? So there's a few days before this is going to happen. We have Pallas Athena reaching the opposition to where Mars and Uranus were together with the star called Algol. And so that star, I don't know where Meredith just went, but I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up and just say that that started a big shift and change in our current reality. And so what's going to happen when Pallas Athena reaches that opposition, and we could say a few days before and a few days after will be the exact point. So with all of that, and I'm just going to say bye from Meredith as well. We have this amazing time that we're in with this cycle, and hopefully you'll feel inspired to work with it and to make the most of it. And we hope that we've been able to inspire you to do that.